And now, Universal, in association with the NRA, we do our part. Yes, folks, like in the literal beginning of the movie, you see in association with the National Rifle Association. I had
Wow.
to rewind that to make sure I saw that logo correct. I was like, yep, it's the NRA. I'm like, what?
Yep,
Let's talk about the Invisible Man. And out of all
my
these films
favorite.
here, this is the guilty pleasure for me. Where I did not expect this movie to be so damn entertaining and funny, but good funny, like dark
Good
funny.
funny. Horror
Yeah,
comedy.
um,
dark humor. Yeah.
yeah. So let's just run it through my thoughts very quickly. Claude Rains as Jack Griffin.
Hmm.
He is amazing in this though. He is like the template for scientists who become insane over their own ego and their own newfound powers, in this case turning becoming invisible. And he has all these plans of domination, well, not so much world domination, but he just wants to cause chaos and just do all kind of dastardly deeds and get rich off of it, right? But you could kind of see him as like the influence for characters like Doctor Doom and just similar characters who just got warped by their own ego, I mean, in the pursuit of science and all that kind of stuff, right? But the moments with him being invisible. So just to get out of the way, the visual effects are quote unquote groundbreaking for this time though. You could tell that they just do some green screen keying out,
A
I
lot of
mean, I'm
wild.
familiar with that. Yeah, they do some wire stuff in terms of just showing inanimate objects move about and stuff like that, right? There are times where you could kind of tell, we like the character himself, it kind of bleeds onto the screen itself, onto the shot. So like he would look like he's like the opacity is down a bit, but it still works in terms of the character. And just the mere fact that this movie came out in 1933 and was able to do the kind of stuff that we see today as far as visual effects go. I mean, I was like, wow, you know what I mean? But yeah, just the moments with him as the Invisible Man are hilarious in my opinion, and just so entertaining. Just hearing his voice and the way how he just talks back at everyone, right?
Hmm.
I love like the shot with the bicycle, when he's
Yeah.
outside. I love how everybody just freaks out. The gypsy woman that we mentioned from Bride of Frankenstein,
Una
she shows
O'Connor.
up and she's like screaming. She's like, ah! And it's so. In this case, it actually works, because like, oh my god, that's such an ear-piercing scream, but this kind of works in
I
terms of the
love
story
her.
itself.
I just love
She's
her.
so
Yeah,
great.
yeah, and she just has this really like unique character about her that I really dug that. But
Mhm.
yeah, though, it's you could kind of tell that Clarine's just having fun though behind the scenes, you know what I mean, or in
Yeah.
front of the mic. One of my favorite scenes involves him singing this song. Here we go, gathering nuts in me,
Yeah.
nuts in me, nuts in when I saw that, like, I just rewound that shot like about 3, 4 times. I was just cracking up. Like, I didn't expect something like this would have happened though. And then this comes right after a scene where he derails a train,
Yep.
killing all the passengers
Oh,
in the train. I'm like, God damn, they actually do this? I want to love also too before I get to rating. It's how the townspeople reacted, like the mayor or the police is always saying, "We got 100,000 men looking for him," and it's all these schemes. You know what I mean? They're trying to trap him, like with a big net and all these kind of things. It's
The big
just
net had
Very
me
so
in
elaborate.
stitches. Like,
hilarious.
really? A giant net, really?
Yeah,
What about
and
when they
the
all joined
ending.
hands?
Yeah,
It's like
oh my
serious.
it's so
god.
funny. But I don't know. Maybe it's from James Whale again, so maybe
Hmm.
I feel it's kind of him kind of winking at the camera again, similar to like what he did with Bride of Frankenstein, kind of like telling the audience, yeah, this is kind of silly, but let's have fun while we at it. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
maybe the whole humor stuff that y'all didn't like with Bride of Frankenstein would work better here with this movie, but. As a whole, though, yeah, this was just a blast from start to end. This is one that I would say this is one I could just show my friends and we could just have a few beers, just be cracking up at it. But at the same time, because of how the character resembles, these super smart, super villain, scientists in the way that we see in comic books and, cartoons and whatnot, you can kind of appreciate the character, like, oh, this technically is where the Doctor Doom character come from, and stuff like that. There, so yeah, I really really dug this film here. Rated wise, I would give this decent to strong 4 out of 5. But I did not expect to have so much fun with this one. This one really really brightened up the when I saw it. CC, any thoughts on the Invisible Man?
The Invisible Man is Universal's first and most successful horror comedy, in my opinion.
Yes.
Like
Yes,
as we're
yes.
saying, I mean, because the entire point of H.G. Wells' novel, like a lot of his work, was the horror of, haha, here's this groundbreaking technology. What if we put it in the hands of the worst human being we could
Yeah.
find?
Yes,
And
yes.
which I feel like is what Lee Whannell builds on for his genuinely chilling, more modern film. But what I like about The Invisible Man, it kind of has a similar appeal to some Martin Scorsese gangster films, where you're kind of watching this absolutely reprehensible character just kind of go on a spree, and you're just kind
Yes.
of there's the whole first bit where which is very well done as far as the mystery goes, which is he's in the little inn, he's trying to cure his invisibility, he's getting more and
Yes.
more frustrated. He's behind on his rent, and then he just snaps, and then the
Yes.
rest of the and it's delightful. And then he spends the rest of the film is this. He's just going on this crazy spree, and the townsfolk and the other scientists and the cops are always like one step behind, and they're not, and they're doing their
The
best,
the,
but
the, the, the
Lord,
100,000, well, sorry, including the 100,000 men, you know what I mean, in this town that
That
don't
we
even
never see.
look like it has 100,000 people in it.
right? No, like
I
and this
love
whole
it.
thing,
It's a little town. I don't know where they get those 100,000 men from.
I have no idea where they got that many. Like, and it's just so, and like it wouldn't work as well. The thing about those movies is that they rely on that central performance, and Claude Rains is knocking it out of the goddamn park. It's like
Yep.
this and his turn as the Phantom of the Opera for Universal's Technicolor Phantom of the Opera movie are probably his two of his best. Like,
Yeah.
it's fascinating to watch those two films back to back because he plays two completely different characters, and it's wonderful. But
Right.
he, as the Invisible Man, there is a bit of a tragedy to this character. There's a little bit of a sadness. There's a little bit of this is like blind ambition, but it's a tiny part of it. Most of it is just this absolute egomaniac
Yes.
who got himself in this mess because like he thought he was better and smarter than everyone else. He was messing in things he didn't understand, and now he's screwed himself over, and he's stuck like that, and he's trying to fix it, and getting upset with everyone except himself.
Mm-hmm.
And like that is hysterical. Like that for me, that's where a lot of the comedy comes from. And then the fact he has to he's basically he messed up because of his own damn experiment, and he's taking it out on everyone except himself. And the comedy is razor sharp, and I feel like
Yes.
it's a brilliant, because unlike Bride of Frankenstein that has such issues with balancing the comedy and the horror, part of the joy of Invisible Man is you're sitting there laughing, and then it'll heel turn, and you're kind of like ha 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 ha, ha. And it's like this great this great heel turn where like suddenly a really funny scene will get really dark, or a really dark scene he'll have a really funny, like the scene where he sends the one guy off the cliff and
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
Dr. Kemp. Yeah.
describes in pretty vicious detail all the things he's going to do as he dies, and you're both
It's
laughing
like,
but also
you're
like
gonna sit there and then it's gonna go over there. Yeah.
like it's funny because of how much relish he's taking. Like then you'll have a little somersault and probably break your arm.
Yes. Yeah.
Like you're kind of
I
laughing.
love that scene.
You're kind of laughing, but you're also like, this is
Messed
horrifying.
up. Yeah.
And yeah, and I also love the scene where it's just like the pair of pants with nobody inside them skipping down the road. Here we go. In May.
That is brilliant.
It's
Brilliant.
so damn funny. No, it's we'll get to the other one, but like it's easily Universal's most, like, of these ones we watched, it's Universal's most effective horror comedy, and I adore it so much. Another 10 out of 10 for me. This one, so good.
Nice. All right, Julian, please tell me you love this movie.
I love this movie. I love it.
Nice.
Yeah. I think CC stole out of my thunder. I think I was going to
this is
say.
your punishment for taking his side on the last one.
I'll take it. I'll take it. Yeah, yeah. As you were saying with the Bride of Frankenstein, with the comedy and the horror didn't really mesh well. This is just the perfect blend of dark comedy and horror. Where yeah, where you are laughing is like, oh, this is funny, silly, and then it's like he does something horrifying. It's like, oh, okay, should I be laughing at this? I'm not sure, you know. And you mentioned the scene where he sent Kemp over with the car to go and crash. But what about the scene where he throws one of the guys searching for him off a cliff and then throws another guy too? And I was like,
Yes.
this is hilarious, but this is like so dark. And
Yeah.
of the 7 films, this is like the darkest, which is the weirdest because this is the horror comedy. We have a comedy coming up, and this movie is just so dark and Claude Rains perfection. A performance
Yes.
where most of the time people just not even seeing you, they're just hearing your voice.
Yes.
He just had a blast with it, and I had a blast watching it. This is actually my number one of all the 7. You know, I
Nice.
Nice.
thoroughly enjoyed this movie. Yeah, this is a 9.5 out of 10 for me. Love it.
Woo! Nice, nice, nice. Summer, thoughts on The Invisible Man?
Well, keeping the train moving, I had a blast with this one. For me, it's like I actually found out that Mark Hamill's inspiration for the Joker was based on Claude Rains' Invisible Man,
Oh my
and
god.
and
That makes so much
I can't
sense.
not see it anymore since I found that out. Because I mean, when you think about it, this works so well as a horror comedy because if you think when you have that discussion of what superpower would you want, most people who say the ability to turn invisible is because you want to do bad things. You want to do things that you could get away with. So you have that guilty pleasure aspect here of just letting go of all your morality and just enjoying how gleefully evil this man is, you know? It's kind of like when you watch if you're a fan of Dexter and you're like, I am
Yeah.
taking the side of a serial killer. This is
Yeah.
insane. You know? But you can't help it. And it's just Claude Rains' energy. It's just it's like being infected. It's what happens while you're watching this. For me, the absolutely funniest scene for me was when he threw the bandages at the people who came through the door. Just
Yes.
their
Oh yeah.
reaction. I just could not stop laughing. And it's what I love about this movie is I feel like it's one of those films you can watch and just no, you don't really need to overthink what you're seeing here. You don't need to like with Frankenstein. There's so much layers to who that character is.
Hmm.
Dracula, you have the whole sexual innuendo of it. This for me is just being a kid again. And you have a superpower and you just want to use it. I mean, granted, we wouldn't want to run around killing people. I don't think anybody here is like that, but it's just the fact that
No, no.
it seems like you could get away with anything and everything here. And another little bit of trivia is the fact that Claude Rains got this role very accidentally. Director James Whale just happened to overhear him test reading for something else, and he loved how he sounded. So, I mean, to think
Okay.
something that iconic came from an accident, you know,
Yeah,
Oh.
is
yeah.
it's just absolutely mind blowing. I love this as well, and this is a 9 out of 10 for me. It's number 4 on my list, but it's a 9 out of 10 for me.
All right. Alice, thoughts on The Invisible Man?
Well, last one to the full, but yes, this is my absolute favorite one. It was so fun to look at. The thing about it is, you know how somebody gets so uncomfortable to the point where you know something is bad, you see something bad going on, but it's so uncomfortable. Sometimes you have to giggle. So I think that's where this thing comes in. Is like you know this guy is a maniac. He's a homicidal maniac. He's going around the place killing people, and yet the way that he executes the entire thing, you have to laugh at it. It's uncomfortable, but you have to laugh. There is the dark humor in it, and Claude Rains is one of my favorite actors from back in the day.
Mm.
He whenever he's on the screen in any movie, as a matter of fact, he commands screen presence. One of my most favorite roles, other than Invisible Man, is Alfred Hitchcock's Notorious, because he actually
Ah,
acts
yes,
as a Nazi
great
spy in
movie,
that
great
one.
movie. Mhm.
Damn.
So I knew that Claude Rains was gonna hit it out the park with this one. Um, these special effects were created by him wearing a black velvet suit and filming
Against a
him
black velvet
against a black
backdrop.
velvet
Yes.
background. Yes,
Yeah.
yes,
Oh, that's how
Yeah.
they do it.
Yeah.
yeah,
Sneaky, very
yeah,
sneaky.
yeah. And like everybody said, it was like a bunch of wires to introduce her. Well, maybe he moved this object or something like that. It was to see how kind of silly the police officers were as well too is actually very amusing, because he has this entire police force wound up so tight that they're making so many mistakes, so many stupid mistakes. Because one of the scenes that makes me laugh is, yes, the scene where he steals the policeman's trousers, and
Yes.
this man is literally up in the air, outstretched, and the other police officers are trying to hold on to him for dear life. His pants comes off. Claude Rains jumps over the the side of the wall, and then puts the trousers on, runs down the road, and scares this poor woman half to death. And even when they were trying to say, like, okay, he Dr. Kemp has betrayed him. He says, okay, I'm coming back tomorrow night at 10 o'clock to kill you. That in
Yeah,
itself is scary, because yeah,
that's
I
grimy. Yeah.
yeah, it's like, okay, this man actually gave you a time of death, and you don't know when he's coming because this man is invisible. An entire police force tried to protect this man, only to realize in the end that he was standing up right next to him under the net
Oh
all
god.
this time. That was like mind blowing for me when he revealed that to the guy, and when he thinks that he's scot free, the man is in the back of the vehicle. Uh, I don't want my
Yeah,
worst
that was
enemy
cool.
to.
That was cool.
Yeah, I don't want my worst enemy to have the power of invisibility. I'm sorry. No, it's just wrong, wrong. But yeah, this one melded the dark humor with the horror so well. I think Summer is right in that this is probably the first version of a properly melded horror comedy. And the thing about it is, I'm sad to see that he doesn't reprise his role, because there is a sequel to the Invisible Man movie,
There are
but
several.
he's replaced by Vincent Price. Not to say that Vincent Price is not a good actor. I just
Right.
was hoping that Claude Rains could have come back for the other one. By the way, does anybody notice that big mistake that they made at the end just before he gets killed?
What?
What's
What
that?
With
mistake
Sorry.
is that?
footprints in the snow. When the barn is set fire that he's sleeping in.
Hmm.
Right.
Footprints in the snow. Okay, he's not supposed to have on clothes, right? So how
Uh,
come the footprints in
uh,
the snow were like shoes?
Oh,
I had not
right.
thought of that.
That's a good point actually. Yeah.
Yeah. Because if he was
Okay.
wearing shoes, you could have seen him, right? You would have seen
Yeah,
the
yeah.
shoes.
But he made a point why he does not wear clothes, right? Which would include shoes. So you're right.
Exactly. So how
Yeah,
come the footprints in the
yeah,
snow?
there had some plot issues like that when he talked about he has to stay in hiding if he eats for like an hour so the food could digest,
You could
and
have,
yet he's
yeah,
smoking a cigarette and you're not seeing the smoke. So
in
it's
his
like,
lungs. You
yeah,
should be
so
able to see
yeah,
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
yeah. So I mean, it was. I think that's just you know,
Little plotting.
for
Yeah,
the
that was
time
the
they
plotting.
didn't. Yeah, they just
Yeah.
didn't think of it for the time.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But all in all, I love this one. This is my number one of the entire seven that we saw. So yeah, I think everybody is in agreement on this one.
Yeah, this is the best
Yeah,
one.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
All right. Yo may get mad at me for this. But remember we just ranking these films here, right? Along with, sharing our thoughts on it, right?
Right.
Now let's hit the 40s with The Wolfman, right?
All right. Hey.
Which features Claude Rains himself. He plays,
Yes.
sorry. Well, he plays Sir John Talbot, but the real
Mm-hmm.
star is Lon Chaney Jr., who plays Lawrence Talbot, aka the
Yeah.
Wolfman, right?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and yes, and Bela Lugosi is in it as well. He plays Bella. Ha! right? I would say this much, right? It's very, very well shot, right? Like the
Oh yeah.
cinematography is very exquisite, it's very moody, very dark and whatnot, right? Especially foggy scenes, right?
Mhm.
It does take a while for the movie to get to the Wolfman, though, but I would say that the build-up is rather intriguing. I
Mhm.
even dug the little trippy sequence that Lawrence goes through, where he's seeing the visions and whatnot before he transformed for the first time, right?
Mhm.
Into it, as a whole, like it did scare me, but in terms of atmosphere, it actually works, right? So the end of the day, it's good for what it is. I didn't love it, but I liked it for what it was. I would understand, some people regarding this as a masterpiece, and of course, this influence you could see on many, werewolf, movies and films and whatnot. Case in point, American Werewolf in London. Just that transformation alone, you could tell that John Landis is what was like. All right, I got to do that way better. That he actually did that both with
Mhm.
that movie and the Michael Jackson Thriller music video, right? But
Right.
for what it is, it's good. I will give this a light 3.5 out of 5. Not a movie that I will go back to in a hurry, but it's good. But in terms of ranking, I kind of have this low as well because I kind of enjoyed the others considerably more than this one. But in terms of just the mood, just the atmosphere of it works.
Mhm.
Julian, thoughts on the Wolfman?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to fight you on this one again, Matthew.
Thank you.
I
Thank you.
adored the Wolfman.
Thank you.
I was like,
All right, all
Well
right,
done.
bro. All right, bro. Okay.
yeah, I was like watching this. I was like, wow, this was one that was actually even better than I remembered when I had first watched it.
Mm.
Yeah, I think
Yep.
everything works here. Lon Chaney Jr. is so good. Of all the sympathetic monsters, I think he is the most sympathetic character, where you
Mhm.
you, you, you do kind of
Yep.
get behind him. It's like and you kind of feel like if I was in this situation, I mean, what would I do? And
True, true, true.
where you and it's a very modern kind of concept as well, to where you have a man kind of questioning his sanity. Am I a monster, or is it gypsy woman kind of messing with my
Messing
head?
with my head,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
Yeah,
I think Claude Rains was really good as well too as the father. I thought
Mhm.
he did his role very. Even the I don't know, I didn't get the actress name, but even the gypsy woman was pretty good as well. She was very kind of unsettling,
Yes.
if she spoke.
Open Skya, I think is her last name.
Yeah, she was really, really good. And well, you talk about the kind of, there's a bit of a slow burn. I thought that was good. I thought it did
Mm.
well to kind of set the scene, and there's this kind of there's something a little off about this song. The something about the rumors. So it builds up very well. And yeah, I
Mhm.
also laughed when I saw, oh, Bela Lugosi's playing Bela. I was like,
or
I was
Bela.
like,
Okay, okay,
I
yeah,
was like, did you,
right.
did you all have to be so on the nose, but whatever. And I love the atmosphere of it, and just the woods
Yes, yes.
being so foggy, and
Yes.
and and I actually was surprised by how well the transformation held up. They
Mm-hmm.
actually look at
Yeah,
him. It
Yeah.
just there's just something
and as you bring up that, what's really cool though is how you would see a close-up shot of Lon's face, right? And
Right.
then you would just see the shot and the Freeman stay exactly where it is, and you just see all this makeup go on his face. And I was watching it, I'm like, all right, so did they just keep that shot and have him in that same position and just
Actually, there's a
add the
perfectly
makeup and
good
then go,
explanation. Yeah.
or did they just have him leave and then they put the makeup back on, have the shot, and just keep dissolving from shot to shot? Well, Alice, well, you could answer that question. We'll get to you next. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
continue, Julia.
Yeah, so I thought I love the pacing in it. I love the tragic love story aspect of it.
Mhm.
Um, Alice made some points in her review where there's something that don't make sense, because Bela turns in an actual wolf creature, where
Yeah.
yeah, where Larry thinks he's an actual wolf, but he turns into a werewolf, a wolf man. But I mean, I
Mhm.
guess you could explain it away and say, well, he probably was an older werewolf and he became more bestial. They could do a little kind of retconning with it, which wasn't too bad.
Mhm.
And I
Yeah.
also thought the way they kill the wolves and the werewolves with there's no silver bullet where they beat them to death with a silver
I
bullet.
know, right?
Very
Yeah,
brutal.
that was brutal. That was
Graphic
brutal.
stuff. You know, it's like it would be easier. It's like, hey, just shoot him, boom. You know, it's like, no, I'm gonna beat you to death until you like
It is
death.
a
Kill.
silver handle though.
Yeah. So yeah. So I yeah with a silver handle. Yeah. Well, that's how they killed it. But yeah, I thoroughly loved it. I thought it was. I found it, scary and tension filled. Even though there actually isn't that many deaths and killing in it. I thought what they did was just so well done. And yeah, this is my number two of the seven. There's like a
All
eight
right,
out of.
all right, cool. Alice, so answering the question that I asked earlier about how they did the makeup effects. Oh, sorry, how they did the transformation.
Yeah, I read up on it, and it's actually they trace the outline of Lon Chaney's face in the lens of the camera that they were filming with at each point in time, right? That he would go away, do a little bit more of the makeup. They would put a little bit more of they used yak hair, by the way. That furry thing is yak hair.
Oh
And
god.
they would put a little bit more on his face, and each time it would be like a different level of his transformation until they get the whole thing. But his face would go right back in the same spot that they traced on the camera.
Ew, that is really
Oh.
smart.
Yeah.
Yo, I
That's
want
a
to
lot
try
Yeah.
that
more.
now.
Yes.
Yeah.
I want to try that shit. Like
Yeah, when I
straight
read
up.
it, I
Yeah.
was like, wow, I was totally amazed with that. Well, going on with my review, this one is actually my second favorite of the Universal monsters. So yeah, I'm against you again, Matt, on this one. Um, the thing
It's
about
cool.
it
It's
is,
cool.
yeah, the thing about it is, the Wolfman has always been a very melancholy, tragic kind of story for me because the character of Larry Talbot, he refers to himself as Larry, the more Americanized version of Lawrence in the movie, is he's a nice guy. He's a very charming guy. So that's why he ends up being such a tortured soul in the end when he realizes, oh my god, I'm a monster, I'm killing people and I can't control myself. So you get that melancholic thing in the terms of this guy is killing. He's getting the impulse to kill when he's turned into a wolf, and he can't control himself. And you're like, but he's such a cool guy. He's such a great guy, and even the girl Gwen Conliffe, she is actually engaged to somebody else, but you can see that because of Larry's presence, she actually starts to fall in love with him like right away from like the get go because he's so charming and lovable, for want of a better word. That's what makes what happens to him at the end of the movie so sad. Um, Again, I liked the fact that I don't know why in the 2010 Wolfman they did this to the character. I don't know if they wanted to change like the origin of the werewolf or whatever it is, but so John Talbot is actually a very nice guy too in this version of the Wolfman. In the 2010 version, he's he murders Larry's brother and the mother and everything. No, he's murdering everybody, and he's not a very good person. In this one, Claude Rains, he's actually trying. He's thinking that maybe his son, maybe the gypsy is messing with his head, and his son is not a murderer, and so on and so forth. And he's actually looking at it in terms of like my other son is dead, so this son can't something can't be wrong with him. He's the heir to the estate, to the Talbot estate. The prodigal son has finally returned home, and we had a nice reunion. There was a part in the film where Larry looks at a gigantic portrait painting of his brother, and you see the remorse on him, like the regret of
Mm.
not being home and not being able to be there for his brother and his father. And the scene of the reunion where it's like, okay, well, that's over with and you're home now and I'm glad to have you back, son, in a kind of a way. So that's why what makes the ending sad too, because Sir John Talbot is the one that like Julian said, brutally beats him to death with this
Right?
scissor-headed cane. And I did find it was a bit strange that they didn't use the silver bullet line. Um, to me, I think it would be a bit unrealistic. I mean, you'd have to beat the living daylights out of somebody to kill them with a cane. It is a bit brutal, but the part that I liked in it is the execution of the whole darkness of the story, and that this guy, he's not a narcissist or anything like that. He's just, something bad happened to this guy. He really didn't deserve what happened to him, but this is the hand that he's dealt with. And I like that the gypsy woman actually came back and she genuinely tried to help him, but he was like beyond help at that point. And then I love the chemistry between Lon Chaney and the actress who plays Gwen Conliffe. I think her name is Annes or Ankus or something like that.
Because
Right. I love the on-screen chemistry between those two. It added to the whole romance of the story, and their romance being doomed because he realizes that she might be a victim because he sees the pentagram in her hand. I was trying to do some research, guys, on that, like where that pentagram thing came from, but I couldn't find out anything about it. I don't know if anybody else
I'll
knows
touch
about
on
it.
that for you guys when I
Yeah,
get. Yeah.
right. But I give it a 7.5 out of 10.
All right, cool.
Yep.
CC, quick thoughts on the Wolfman.
I love this one. I'm a big werewolf buff in general. It's kind of interesting to me that this movie kind of had, because unlike the vampires or the Frankenstein monster where there was a book, the Wolfman was a lot more like the Mummy. It was more of like there was a general legend, and
Yeah.
then this movie is to werewolves what the original Dracula book is to vampires. It's the work of art that brought the particular monster into the mainstream and wrote all the rules, kind of. Like, there were a couple werewolf movies before this one, but this is the one that kind of took any of the, like, really good ideas from those and, like, really solidified them into the mythos and the lore that we know today. I also love that this is the movie that kind of establishes the precedent for all werewolf films going forward,
Correct.
where the werewolf and the transformation scene are kind of the set pieces of the movie, kind of. Where I feel like every werewolf movie is either most werewolf movies, I feel like one of the big set pieces is the transformations, and like you want to see how they're going to pull it off or what the design's going to look like. And you see that you see that throughout the genre, and this is the movie that sets that precedent. And then the thing, and like, I mean, everything that everyone else has already said is true. Like, the performances are great, the way it's shot, the tragedy. Like, the Wolfman is the first of the Universal monsters that's truly the reluctant monster.
Yes.
Like, which adds like Dracula and Imhotep are both like they are monsters. They have always been monsters. They're kind of, maybe they were human once, but they made the decision to be monsters. The Frankenstein monster doesn't quite know what it's doing for the first movie, and then the second one, it's like, it's learning. The Invisible Man gets these powers and just like goes on a spree, like absolute gleeful, doesn't care. But Lawrence Talbot is such a, like has been said, he's such a nice, genuinely caring person that it's hard. It's really difficult to even consider the fact that he's a murderous, vicious, especially since, like, what I love about this movie is that because we're now into, code Hollywood, we have officially now we have kind of standards, and now we have codes, and like how what is acceptable and what is not in movies. So there's a certain amount of gore and violence that we have to imply now. But I love how, like, we never see what the Wolfman has done, and we kind of shadow the attacks and the kills, but the descriptions are vicious. Like,
Yes.
you hear them talk about,
Yeah.
and, like, the implied violence is absolutely vicious. So reconciling that with how nice and like how genuinely caring of a person Lawrence Talbot is, and how it's absolute torment for him to even consider the fact that he could be out there like viciously tearing people's throats, is what grounds the movie and what allows it to age as well as it has, and what kind of sets a precedent for all werewolf films going forward. And I think all of that comes back to Lon Chaney Jr., who I will always maintain is an underrated actor. He's one of those. I feel like he got a bad rap as mainly being an actor who was like, I don't know, like always cast, especially later, was always cast in like monster movies and bit parts and like the monster. Like never like not a lot of roles that really explored the range he has, which is a shame because his range in this movie is what makes it work so well. It kind of reminds me, I feel like the only other movie that I've seen of his that really like sells that idea or really like communicates that idea is the Defiant Ones with Tony Curtis and Sidney Poitier from 1958, where he has that small role in that movie, and even in that film, you get this sense of like you get the sense of his range as an actor. But the Wolfman is the one that showcases it the best. It's like definitely one of my personal favorites of the bunch. I'm not sure where I rank it but like I definitely give it like a 9 out of 10. It's like one of my favorites of the bunch.
Right.
All right. And Summer, quick thoughts on the Wolfman, including that thing about the pentagram for Alice.
Right. So first of all, the Wolfman ranks number 1 on my list out of these 7. I'm a huge fan of werewolves, and this is the movie that caused that. This is the movie that triggered that in me. From the cinematography in this film holds up so beautifully, guys. It's you look back at Dracula and you look back at Frankenstein and you can see these, for want of a better word, mistakes. But I watched this movie again and again and again, and it never lets me down in terms of that cinematography. And then of course we have Lon Chaney Jr., who, first of all, he has the physicality. He's this tall, big guy, but then he has these kind, sad eyes, and it works so perfectly with his acting to create this sympathetic character, this character that I always feel so much sympathy for when this thing happens to him, this kind man who is brought to his most primal level. And one of the things too that I love about this movie is with the pentagram stuff you guys are talking about, the writer Kurt Sodermark. A lot of what he created here goes on to be what we think are the legends of werewolves, where the full moon and the silver bullet and all of that, Granted, the silver stuff, it can be found in earlier writings and stuff, but a lot of the stuff we see here, including that pentagram and that mark of the beast kind of thing, it comes just from this movie. So if that's where you guys are wondering where it's from, it comes from this movie kind of thing. I think also it may also touch on the whole thing of Nazis marking Jews, and because you have that gypsy culture there, where gypsy is a nasty word, really, and these people don't like
Romani,
to be called that, right? So they're Romani, So you have all of that working there. You have that excellent chemistry between two people who allegedly did not like each other, Evelyn Ankers and Lon Chaney Jr., because apparently he did not make working on set easy for her. He would tease her and scare her and stuff a lot in costume. And so, I guess it's kind of like a Patrick Swayze and Jennifer Grey thing in Dirty Dancing, where that they always say there's a thin line between love and hate, so it works well there.
Right.
The what you don't see aspect of it, like Cece was saying, where you don't really see, but they tell you what, the violence that has occurred. Because I always used to think it was funny that the Wolfman seemed to strangle everybody. I'm like, why is he strangling everybody, But they couldn't really show that stuff. And yet the scene where you have the widow of the daughter who is accusing Evelyn Ankers' character of canoodling with Lon Chaney, and that's why her daughter got killed. I looked at that and Jaws instantly popped up into my mind, where the widow was accusing the sheriff of, not closing the beaches kind of thing.
Oh, yeah.
She's there, We also have you guys wondering about the wolf and the werewolf aspect of it. I think that is because there's some rewriting there, because the original script actually, as you can see from the opening and the explanation for what lycanthropy is, they actually were considering never showing the actual Wolfman, never showing it, so that you have to wonder if this is all in his head as well, And I think that in the end they made the right decision in showing us that, going that whole supernatural route. But it kind of makes me wonder if a director like Stanley Kubrick got a hold of this, what he would have done with it, to
Right.
give
Right.
you
Yeah, I
that
got
whole
you.
psychological aspect. But overall, guys, this movie for me has always held up. It's always hold a fond place in my heart. It's the reason I love werewolves and I sympathize with werewolves and I prefer a gothic werewolf to a modern day one. It's because of this film. You know,
Right.
the way they portray modern day werewolves, that they can change whenever they want and they throw all
Yeah.
the rules out the window.
Yeah.
I like this. I like this clean, beautiful, sympathetic story of a man who is basically struggling with his most primal and darkest desires, as
Mhm.
opposed to what civilization and civilized culture says you're supposed to be and how you're supposed to be. And I again, the only thing for me is like, yeah, why weren't they shooting this thing? But I don't know. Maybe it had something to do with the code. Maybe they didn't want to show something like that. I don't know.
Right.
But it
They're
does
just
play
clubbing
into
him to that Mobile Island and shooting, but
yeah,
okay.
it's so strange, but I it does leave an impact. It definitely stays with you. So
True.
this is a 10 out of 10 for me, guys. I absolutely love this
Woo.
eve, and it's my number
Wow.
one.
Okay.
All right. I have a feeling that if I watch it over, perhaps after like hours after eating lunch, maybe I'll appreciate it way more than like you guys. Yeah. And last but not least, I kind of call this the Avengers, Marvel T Avengers, that is, of the list that we've got. The selection of films that we got here. Abbott and Costello meet Frankenstein. So let's get it out of the way. This is my first Abbott and Costello movie.
Oh,
If you're
It was mine as well. It was mine as well, I think.
is it?
I don't
yeah,
It's the one I remember, so that speaks volumes. It's the one I
okay,
remember.
okay, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Wow.
I've never bothered to watch a Abbott and Costello film. I mean,
Mm.
all right. So basically, just a little history, right?
Mhm.
So CCN TV6, which still exists, they
Mhm.
had the Abbott and Costello cartoon from the 1960s, right? And
Mhm.
it's only like when it stopped airing that I realized, oh, they actually based off a real comedians. The comedic duo of Bud Abbott and Lou Costello, right? But I
Right.
just never took the time to actually watch their films.
Oh, okay.
Well, until now, right? So it's like, okay,
Yeah.
okay. This is actually the longest film in the lineup that they gave us. I
Yeah.
didn't see the Looney Tunes as title sequence coming up mile away, especially from a studio that isn't Warner Brothers, but whatever. But as this is the first Abbott and Costello movie I've ever seen, I was really blown away by the chemistry, though. Their comedic timing is so
Mhm.
on point, though. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Just
Yeah.
how
Um,
they bounce off each other, the characterizations, it just totally works. So, and you could easily see them as the inspiration behind Ernie and Bert, right, from Sesame Street. And how I know is because there's a scene involving them
Yes.
basically, looking at the casket where Dracula is, and then Dracula rises. Because yes, Dracula is in this movie as well. I'll get to him in a bit.
Yeah.
And I couldn't help but think of one of my
Ernie
favorite
and the yes,
Oh
sketches.
yeah.
yes.
The Bert
I wrote
in the
that in my
pyramid.
notes too, Matthew. Ernie and
Yeah,
Bert.
especially the Bert, the stuff. I
Yeah. I wrote
love
that in my review too.
Love love that.
uh,
So apparently Dracula have a ring which has like electricity in it, so he uses it to wake the monster up. And the monster, by the way, is played by Glenn Strange. I was like, all right, cool, whatever. I thought that Dracula's by the way was played by Bela Lugosi again. His transformation from fake bat to animated bat to
Yeah.
animated Dracula to real Dracula is kind of cool. I thought it was
It
dope. It
Yeah.
was actually
is.
like really really dope.
I liked it. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. It's more
Yeah,
fluid than the bouncing up on a bat from the first one.
yeah, yeah. But if I'm not mistaken, I've seen this used in like 70s horror films. Well, more black exploitation films like say Blackula, yes, Blackula
Mhm.
and stuff like that, right? I've seen that whole animated bat turned into a real human thing done before, right?
Right.
Also, his ability to hypnotize people, all right, I get that, but there's literally a scene where he uses I call it force powers to summon
Yes.
Yeah.
Costello back
Yeah.
because I was like, what? You know what I mean? I actually thought that the third act was kind of badass though. For the monster lifting we have this character named Sandra, who we find out
Oh,
actually
Oh
works for
yeah,
Dracula, and like throws her through the window. I was
fantastic.
like, God
Yes,
damn,
that was
I
like
was like, oh my
that
god.
was very unexpected. It's like, oh my god.
Yes,
yeah.
it was.
To Costello
oh.
pretended to be Dracula to fool the monster. He says he thinks I'm Dracula. That's one of my favorite lines in the movie. He thinks I'm
Yeah.
Dracula. Two Two
Oh.
slight spoiler: the Wolfman literally grabbing Dracula as he turned into a pot, and they fall into the water like with rocks or with the rocky, water surrounding the castle, Dracula's castle. I'm like, wow, dude! Like I would not have thought of that, though. But that was awesome. That was really awesome, though. As
Mhm.
far as the monster itself goes, this is where I have issues, right?
Mhm.
I didn't really dig the makeup for his face. I thought that like his face just looked a little fattish compared to like what we saw before with the Boris Karloffs and stuff like that. Here, his face just didn't work for me. It just didn't gel. It didn't look the way how it did with the 30s movies, right? And
Yeah.
also another issue with these movies, not enough of the monster, but he's in the title, right? But even if you want to tell me, oh well, it's meant to be interpretive. It's really about these two human characters being introduced into the monster. Well, sorry, not the monsterverse. I'll get to that at the end. Basically introduced to these Universal's classic monsters. So that's the joke. It's really that's what it means. It's not really so much them meeting Frankenstein as such, but whatever. I felt we could have had more of him. But oh, and one last thing: the cameo by the Invisible Man. Round of
Yes.
applause. That was brilliant. Great way to end that show. I love that ending, right? But as a whole, this was just this fun monster mashup, sort of Marvel's The Avengers s kind of vibe. You know what I mean? Like it's something that like on paper would have sounded like the worst idea ever, but somehow they make it work. And I forgot to mention last thing last, they even incorporate the Wolfman into it, and it works. It
Yeah.
works.
Right.
Yeah,
Yes.
it
Yeah.
just takes everything that we know about the Wolfman, the Dracula and Frankenstein, and just makes this plausible enough situation comedy for these guys to just do their thing. And yeah, I dug this. This as my first. This was as this be my first ever Abbott and Costello viewing experience. I actually dug this. I really want to see more of their films. Well, on the next stuff list, I'm actually going to check out, Abbott and Costello Meet the Invisible Man. Actually, a YouTuber says that it's better. He actually prefers it more than, Frankenstein. I don't know, maybe, but I'll see. But yeah, this experiment actually works, man. So yeah, I do understand why it's regarded as one of the best comedies, well, American comedies ever made, right? So
Mhm.
rating wise, I'll give this a decent 4 to 5, man. I thoroughly dug this. CC, is this movie better than Abbott and Costello meets The Invisible Man or not?
I have not. I need to see Abbott and Costello meet the Invisible Man. I know that I think it's Cinemassacre who is the YouTuber who he done a lot of Universal reviews and he says that the
That's
Invisible.
it. That's the video I watched. That's the
Yeah.
same video. Yeah, yeah.
I know that the Abbott and Costello monster movies are very highly regarded by a lot of filmmakers that love to make horror comedies. So, like Sam Raimi and James Gunn are both huge fans of the Abbott and Costello Monster Mash movies,
Not surprised.
and you can see a lot of it's because this is a horror comedy in the same it's the second horror comedy of the bunch, like the true horror comedy, and it gets the blend right. But I mean, but aside from, it's almost like there's a transition, right? Like you start with Bride of Frankenstein, which incorporates some comedy elements, and whether or not it works is up for debate. Then
Yes.
you get Invisible Man, that truly blends horror and comedy into a more smooth thing, but it's still like a horror film. This is definitely like first and foremost a comedy movie with all of this with all these horror elements going on, and I appreciate that they really took the time to like integrate it. It's like you're saying, they took the time to integrate it well. Like it wasn't just like I don't know, Abbott and Costello randomly come across these monsters or whatever. Like, it's this very well written plot with all these like intricate pieces and things that like actually build into each other, building to a pretty hilarious high adrenaline slapstick climax. This was also my introduction to Abbott and Costello. I've seen the Who's on First skit, which is classic. I'm very hit or miss with older comedians. I love the Marx Brothers. Like the Marx Brothers are some of my favorite comedians ever. But I'm
Yeah,
also
Duck Soup. Duck Soup is my favorite film from them. Yeah.
That's the political one, right? That's the one where it's like, is that the political one or is that the Duck Soup? Is that the one?
I think it is. Yeah. I haven't seen it in a
That
while, but yeah.
Oh, that one's a masterpiece. But I love that one. I like Monkey Business. But I'm also not a fan of the Three Stooges, like at all. Abbott and
Yeah, I don't care for them at all. I don't know why. It's just not my cup of tea.
Well, like, but then Abbott and Costello are a nice middle ground. They're halfway between the like entirely verbal, witty, like burn comedy of the Marx Brothers, and then the slapstick of the Three Stooges. And so, as a duo, they work very well. Like the whole the whole sequence where I think where the whole sequence where it's Costello who's in the room with Dracula's coffin and he keeps trying to convince, like we've seen
I love that.
we've seen this bit done before since then, but it's still hilarious to see it in this particular context, and like this original context still holds up so well. And like Abbott as like the aggressive kind of curmudgeonly skeptic, like no matter what is happening, he's like the last person to believe any of it, even when like literally some of the and with some of the visual gags in this are some of the absolute best. Like the whole sequence where like Costello is where he's locked the Wolfman in his room as per his instructions, but he like
I love that.
That whole bit is like, because it's funny, but also like it's funny because it's a little scary, because you're like, is he gonna wander back into the room? He's gonna let the werewolf out, or is he gonna like and you're there, like there's real stakes to it. There's almost like tension to it. I also like chronologically, I kind of love that you can tell that this was where Universal had finally just kind of accepted the fact that the monsters were kind of a brand unto themselves at this point. Like, I'm looking at my box here, and like chronologically, this film comes after like not only all the films we've talked about already, but all the sequels. Right? So every monster at this point has had like 3 or 4 movies, and the public is very much well aware of who they are. And so then the idea of, hey, let's combine them, let's have them cross over with these 2 popular comedians and have like this horror comedy monster mash, like things are, and like the last act they're all running around the castle, and I kind of love how like there's a very serious horror film going on where like the Wolfman is confronting Dracula, but we're missing that. Like that's happening in the background kind of. Like I love how you'll watch Abbott and Costello running around the hallways trying to avoid everybody, and in the background you'll see like Dracula and the Wolfman crash from one room into another room, and they're still fighting each other.
Yes, I love that.
Yeah.
I love I was not expecting the whole bit where like the one woman gets thrown out the window. That was like one of the best visual.
Yeah.
Like that's one of those ones that's funny, not because it's like, I feel like it's not funny because it's a humorous thing to happen kind of, and like it's a humorous image, and it's so shocking and unexpected that you can't help but laugh at it, and the movie kind of leans into that a little bit. And no, this was my introduction to Abbott and Costello. I want to watch more now because it's so funny, and because the 2 of them have such good chemistry, and because the 2 of them have such great the comedic timing is impeccable. You can't pull off slapstick and visual gags and verbal gags like this unless your sense of timing is immaculate, right? Like unless you're pulling these moments off with almost mathematical precision, with like, at this moment I'm gonna turn at exactly the wrong time, and then I'm gonna slip here, and then I'm gonna miss this thing, and like And Lon Chaney Jr. and Bela Lugosi reprising their roles is great. And no, this film is absolutely iconic. I love this one so much. The 8 out of 10 for me. A lot of fun. I laughed my ass off watching this.
All right. Julian, thoughts on Abbott and Costello meet Frankenstein?
Yeah, well, it seems I'm apparently the only Abbott and Costello veteran. I guess you'll find
Really?
out. From,
Okay.
yeah,
Would.
yeah. So
Where do we go from here?
yeah, I think you can probably stick with the monster stuff. I'm mostly familiar with their monster mashups.
Okay.
But yeah, I love their brand of comedy with the straight guy and the silly guy. And as you talk about, the perfect timing. And you can see these are two guys who have refined their routines and their techniques over so much time. It's probably like, second nature to them. This movie, yeah, I had so much fun with it. I laughed my tail off completely with it. One of the bits I really loved was when the insurance agent actually throws Costello into some decorations, and he was like, "Well, you don't even have a witness." He's like, "Okay," and Abbott is
Oh,
like,
I remember that.
"Yeah,"
Yeah.
tells the guy in night costume, "Okay, you look at this, do it again," and again,
Keep falling in his face.
you know,
So
and
good.
also and then there's also the whole subplot of all these women only coming on to Costello,
Yeah.
and
Yes.
Abbott is like, this makes no sense, and
They
and,
come and
and
look
there's
at you.
and
They'll come and look at you.
yeah, and Abbott is like, have you seen yourself in a mirror? And Costello's like, why would I want to hurt my own feelings? Yeah, and what I thought was really well done as CC was mentioning, they actually make an effort to say, well, okay, we're not just making an Abracadabra movie and kind of throw in and shoehorning in these characters. We're actually going to do some work and actually create a script and actually work on the horror characters, have their motivations and so forth. And actually, surprised, I thought Lon Chaney was pretty good in the film as well too. But I just kind of like slipped back into the role as well. Sadly, Boris Karloff was like, "Yeah, I'm good. I'm not coming back." So you got, yeah, so you got Ian Strange, who just does like nothing with the role, and yeah, and which I guess is probably not a bad thing since they had so little of the monster in the movie, So I guess it wasn't too bad, and yeah, and surprisingly was the as you were saying, the last act where I was like, okay, this is a lot of action going on here, you know.
Mm.
Yeah, as Cece was mentioning, the fight going on in the background when the, and the ending when they set the monster alight, which for some reason reminded me of the ending of Freddy versus Jason. I was like, okay, this is
Oh,
this
yeah.
will work.
You're
Yeah.
right.
Yeah,
It
that kind of
happened on a jetty too. Yeah.
yeah.
Oh
Me.
yeah.
So yeah, so I just had a great time. I mean, I love Abbott and Costello, and yeah, and they work so well with the kind of scare comedy of it. So yeah, yeah. This one is a 7.5 out of 10 for me. I had a great time with it.
All right. Summer, thoughts on Abbott and Costello meet Frankenstein?
Yeah, well, of all the Abbott and Costello movies out there, this is the only one I could actually remember when that I saw when I was younger, and I remembered it. Because I think I've seen a few of them, but this is actually the only one that stuck with me. So I guess that speaks volumes as to how good it is. And one of the things that I really enjoyed here from the bat is the fact that it was a female mad scientist. That's not something you
That
really would
a lot.
see.
Yeah. Hmm.
I appreciated that. That blew my mind a bit watching it as an adult. Like, wow, it's a female mad scientist. Albert and Costello, I mean, at the end of the day, Costello as Wilbur, he is the shining light in this for me, as well as Lon Chaney
Yeah.
Jr., because I think one of the reasons this works so well is that the monsters play it straight. They don't try to be goofy or anything like that. They
Right.
are who they are, and then you have them in this world with these comedic elements. So it just plays as Sissy said. You have moments where you're actually kind of scared for them because it's like I've seen this guy murder people before in this in this Wolfman form or whatever. But the comedy is just so sharp. The energy never lets up really from the opening
No.
of this. It just goes on and it keeps that great energy and that great pacing going. And then we have that insane finale where you're like, I can't believe they just threw that woman out the window. I mean, it wraps up it wraps up pretty quickly, and for me I was like, okay, all the monsters are gone. It just happened kind of fast for me, but this also had some of the best lines. I just love that when Dracula tells Lou, what we need is young blood and brains. I just
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's so much here to appreciate as a horror comedy. And while I just because I'm kind of messed up, I prefer the darker horror of comedy of Invisible Man. That doesn't mean I can't appreciate what they did here with Abbott and Costello. So for me, this is a 7.5 out of 10, and it was number 6 on my list.
All right.
Yeah.
And last but not least, to close things off, Alice, quick thoughts on Abbott and Costello meet Frankenstein.
Well, I had a total blast with this one. I know of Abbott and Costello from before, like I said, with my dad, because my dad was a big fan of their humor.
Mm.
And that all-time iconic skit of Who's on First.
Yeah.
So I've had experience with them before. It's just that it was such a long time since I saw the movie. It was like looking at it with fresh eyes. And I read some of the background in it, and actually Costello really didn't want to do this movie because he said that his script was something that his 5-year-old daughter would write. But the thing about it is,
Wow.
yeah, they said that about it, and the thing
What?
about it is, it has become such an iconic movie, even though it the plot is way out there. Let's just say that, folks, it's way out
Yes.
there. It is the combination of two totally different universes that we would never expect, right? But the thing about it is after doing some research on it, what the studios found, well, what Universal Studios found, is that the classic monsters with all these sequels and stuff, like what CC was saying, that were done, people were kind of saturated with it. And then there was the oncoming of, there was World War II happen in between there as well too. So people didn't want the horror, in your face horror. They don't want to be scared. The last thing they want to do is to be scared at this point, because as you know, after a world war of that scale, it takes years to come off of that. So it was a way of the studios trying to revitalize the classic monsters in a kind of a way, but also throw in that bit of comedy and created that mishmash that ended up being so successful.
It's funny you say that too, because I read that it was the cheapest movie Universal had ever made, and yet it's their second highest grossing film.
Yes,
Wow.
yeah,
Yeah.
Wow.
that is correct.
Look at that. Huh?
Yeah,
Wow.
yes, and all the sketches of like that particular one that more than one of you spoke about, that scene, that classic scene where Bela Lugosi is now opening the coffin and Abbott is reading the exhibition poster and he's hearing the creak, and he almost breaks the fourth wall because his eyes kind of like move, like, okay, I'm reading this and I heard a creak. That
Yeah.
scene just, I started giggling from that moment on because I was like, yeah, I heard it too. Yep. Yeah, the candle just moved. Yep. And the thing about it is, the other thing that I didn't hear you guys mention was in Bela Lugosi's Dracula, he just stares at you and hypnotizes you. But in this one, he uses these weird hand gestures, like he's trying to pull you into him. So,
Yeah,
he
that's
puts
what's
up his
called the
hand and he's
force
kind of,
powers. Yeah.
yes, yes, that was absolutely hilarious because when Costello loses his voice and he can't describe to any one of them there, not the owner of the crates or anybody. He just does this thing where he puts up his jacket in front of his face and then he does the thing in front of his face, like, yeah, the gesture with
Yeah,
his
I was wondering if that was intentional or not. Like if it was, try to play
yeah,
if it's meant to make fun of the Dracula character, or if
yes,
that's how Dracula moves in the sequels. Basically, I wasn't sure, but that
Yeah,
was that was
that's
yeah,
hilarious.
that's a Dracula hiding behind the cape, like you said with Count Von Count. The Count does it as well, and all you see is the eyes,
right.
that kind of thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that is like one of his most powerful features because he could enthrall you, hypnotize you with the eyes, bend you to his will kind of thing. Um, I agree with Summer in that I didn't remember that the scientist, the mad scientist, was female, and I thought it was pretty groundbreaking, especially for that era, because still women were still the most underpaid actors, if for want of a better word, in those days. They had to fight for their rights
Sad
and
but
so
true.
on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
So yeah, it was pretty refreshing to see. Yeah, it was a female mad scientist, and I really loved the fact that they made Lon Chaney Jr. the kind of underrated hero of this one because he's the one that starts the whole thing, and that he makes this mysterious call that Costello answers and warns him not to let the museum have the crates.
Yeah. We also see this movie, one of my
Yeah.
absolute favorite kid horror movies is Monster Squad. And you can see where they took
Yes.
a lot from Abbott and Costello meets Frankenstein and they've
Hmm.
incorporated it into Monster Squad, including the Wolfman being the kind of unsung hero there too.
Right. Right. I really enjoyed it that he gets another that Lon Chaney Jr. gets a moment to shine because he is the unsung hero. He actually sacrificed himself in the end with like Matthew was saying, the hilarious scene where he grabs the bat and jumps over the balcony into the sea. It's hilarious, but you realize, okay, well I think he's dead now. He just sacrificed his life.
Yeah, but
Hmm.
In other
he
words,
went out like a badass too. Like,
Yes,
yo.
yes.
true. True, and I mean, Lon Chaney Jr. Was this larger in life guy. I mean, he is arguably the tallest of the monsters. He was 6'3", 225 pounds of a man.
Wow.
So yeah, so his on-screen presence is just commanding in any scene that he was in. That's what makes the action sequences in the last scene so how you say so brutal with them crashing through the entire castle and these two tall guys because Bela Lugosi was also tall crashing all over the place. And yes, that scene that where he throws actually the doctor's name is Dr. Monet out the
Oh
window,
yes,
it,
yes.
it it
Yes.
shocked me to the point where I actually was like was like that because I was like, oh my god, this woman just literally got murdered, but there are these
Yeah.
hilarious things going on the other side, and I was like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
it's like
very
how?
jarring. It's like, is she
Yeah,
dead? It's like you even stop to wonder, like maybe she didn't actually fall, but nope. She's
no,
gone.
she's
She's just
yeah,
I guess
that
I
was
guess that
just
was also groundbreaking in itself, because most of the
yeah,
time you would have that damsel being saved. I was like, nope.
yes. Well, the damsel being saved was the insurance agent, and it was pretty funny that the her assistant is actually mine, the one who was doing Google eyes at the insurance agent, because at the end of the day, nobody. What was funny, equally funny, is that nobody really was interested in Costello in the first place. They were just using him. But
Yeah,
Abbott
yeah.
was feeling also jealous, and he's like,
oh,
"Come here, let me look at you in the light," kind of thing. It's like,
what do you got that I haven't got? Like,
yeah, it's like I
I
need to
think.
check and see what's going on here.
Oh yeah. What is?
But the thing
Yeah.
about me is that the I do love the comedic timing of Abbott and Costello, but it's just one little problem that I always had with the Abbott character is that he always seemed to be such this kind of pompous, bossy kind of guy, always
Right.
trying to take advantage of Costello, always bossing him around. Like even in the beginning of this one, I was like, I actually rolled my eyes at the beginning because he was like, "You need to answer the door and the phone at the same time." Because Costello was asking, which one do you want me to answer first? Because he was getting
Yeah.
frustrated. So, no, you need to answer both at the same time. And I'm like, I just sighed and rolled my eyes because I was like, yeah, that's typical Abbott. But I take him
Yeah.
in small doses because that also is what meshes with the comedic timing of the personalities are so different, opposites attract. And that is what made magic for the Abbott and Costello duo. The funny thing is that these monster mashup movies actually revitalizes their career as well too at the same time.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it does. But yeah, this one is high up on my list at 7.5 out of 10. It was just hilarity ensues from the beginning to end, action from beginning to end, and still you have that horror element where you don't want anything to happen to the duo. Is that that intensity, especially the scene where he has to lock the Wolfman inside his hotel room.
Oh God.
That that scene is just iconic. That's stuck in my mind.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a great scene. That was a great
I
scene.
love the other bit though when Costello is strapped to the table and like the Wolfman and Dracula are like pushing the table back and
Yes.
forth,
Oh,
and
and he's spinning. Yes.
because you're like, oh God, either one of them could kill him right now, but then like you're
Yes.
also, it's such a great visual gag. You're also just laughing yourself silly, and it's
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it was Sam Raimi who once said that the secret to horror comedy is like
Hmm.
you take all of that pent up like fear that an audience has, and then you make them laugh, and it's like this extra big laugh because
Right.
because you got all that nervous energy too. You
Yeah.
like you're nervous and tense because of the horror stuff happening, but then you add a
Yeah.
comedic element, and it's this bigger, more like exuberant laugh. It's one of the reasons why horror comedies, like the
Yeah.
really good horror comedies, are like some of the most remembered and like talked of movies like ever. I think, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, indeed, indeed.
Mm.
Yes, folks. So those were the seven films that Universal gave us for free on YouTube for a week.
Thank you,
So right now
Universal.
they're
Thank you,
thank
Universe.
you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
Right now they're not there, but they have like these little brief videos that kind of, I think they have like Dracula or Frankenstein in 10 minutes, like all the films in
Little
10 minutes
clips. Yeah.
basically. Yeah, little clips. Yeah. But other than that though, I mean, if you guys get a chance, you guys listening,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, check these films out. I mean, they're great. We may have little conflicting views on some films, but they're still classics in our opinion, right?
Yeah.
Also, I mean, if you could get a hold of the Universal Classic Monsters box set, go right on ahead. Unless it's just not your cup of tea, but in my case, I kind of need this in my life. You know what I mean? And
I
well,
want
I
somebody
know
to gift
CC.
it
I
to
mean, you
me.
could. Sorry.
I want somebody to gift it to me. My birthday's
Yeah, I
coming up
know,
in
right?
March.
I think the only thing about the collection that I will say is that the only thing about the collection that's a little bit annoying is that
Hmm.
you do kind of end up with duplicates because it's basically a bunch of little collections in one big box set. So
Hmm.
what you end up with is for example, the Dracula collection has all the Dracula movies. The Frankenstein collection has all the Frankenstein movies.
Right.
So both of them have Abbott and Costello meet Frankenstein, kind of.
Oh,
Oh,
right.
that's
Understand.
lazy. Come
Yeah,
on.
Yeah.
there's a couple there's a couple crossover movies that just kind of end up overlapping
Right.
in. Yeah, there's a couple different ones that end up overlapping with, like, especially the ones that are the worst for that are easily Wolfman, Dracula, and Frankenstein, because those three ended up crossing over so much, and a lot
Right.
of those crossover movies end up repeating on each other's box sets. So,
Okay.
and that's my only gripe with the collection. Otherwise, it's great to have them all in one place, and the picture quality of them is pretty good as well, and and they do have some like great special features. The Dracula collection includes the Spanish version, and I've been meaning to watch it because the Spanish version isn't just like a dub; it is an entirely different production financed by
Okay.
Universal with a Spanish speaking cast and crew,
Nice.
which is
Nice.
which is I've heard is like, some people have argued whether it's better than the original or not, but I do want to give it a watch at some point, and it's part of the Dracula box set, and it's really good from what I've heard.
Okay, okay. Well, wish I could see that I could get a hold of this
Yeah,
box set very
I
soon, but
I
it's on my
yeah,
to buy list for sure, right? But
it's it's
to
a it
everyone
is a
else,
great box. It is a
yeah,
great box.
yeah, I can imagine it's a great buy. It's
I
been
think
well, I see like on Amazon, it's been getting a lot of great reviews and whatnot.
I think at the moment a lot of the Universal monster movies are on, because because everyone has a streaming service. At least in the U.S., Universal has NBC Peacock, and on their free tier, because they're one of the services where you can just sign up and have a free tier, but then if you want certain things, you have to pay a little extra, and then you can get other things. But the free tier does include a lot of the monster movies,
Okay.
which is very nice. And if I didn't have the box set, I would probably get those. But like, it also includes like the free tier also has some of their just like random ones. Like Doctor Cyclops is on there, which is an interesting like older Universal horror film, especially with
Right,
like
right.
I never saw that one.
Never saw that
yeah,
one either.
and the Incredible Shrinking Man is also on the free tier.
Okay. I actually heard of that one, not the Doctor Cyclops that much.
Hmm.
Yeah, but I would still recommend. I mean, if you haven't seen these films, guys, I mean, give them a look. They do, deserve their spot as far as, just iconic and influential films, right? I mean, you could kind of watch them and laugh, I mean, and giggle and, at the cheesy aspects of it. But there's lots of good in all of these films here. So I
Yes.
strongly recommend checking them out in some way, shape, or form.
Yep.
All right. So before we go, as we normally do, just letting people know where we could find ourselves online. I'll start off first. You could find me on Twitter. Just look for Bear Beat Bailey. On Instagram, you could find me at Bears Beats and Bailey. On Facebook, just look for my name, Matthew Bailey, along with Illegally Black Blog official fan base, where you find a link to this episode of Retrospect Reviews and the others that I've done before, and of course the episodes, or I should say seasons of Bear Beats and Bailey, which I do with Ricardo Medina. Julian, where can we find you online?
You can find me on my site, redmangoReviews.com. You can also find reviews from Summer and Alice on there. On Facebook, you can find me also, Red Mango Reviews, and also find me at Movieville.
All right, and on the subject of that, I'm going to include all 7 reviews that, Alice wrote for, well, all 7 of these films here, right? I know, just feel free to check out, Dark Alice Reviews, the Facebook page, and of course, Red Mango the Reviews. Alice, where can we find you online, outside of just those 2 platforms I just mentioned here?
You can find me on Instagram at Alice_Oscura, and in Twitter as well too, the same name, Alice_Oscura.
All right, Summer, where can we find you online?
You can find me on YouTube at Movie Junkie for Life, on Facebook at Movie Junkies Continued, and other than that, on Twitter at TNT Movie Junkie.
All right, and last but not least, CC, where can we find you online?
You can find me in the laboratory of shirtless Kenneth Branagh Frankenstein. No, you can find me.
How specific?
Oh my goodness.
You can find me on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, LinkedIn, and Spotify at CC_the_Martian. And then on Facebook, just at CC Lilford.
All right, great. So, guys, thank you so much for coming through. And before we part ways, special announcement here, because at the time of recording here, about a few hours ago, the first trailer for Godzilla vs. Kong dropped. I must have watched that video about 5 times. I watched like about 3 reactions. We all reacted the same way. We lost our ape shit when we just saw, there's these 2 behemoths just duke it out. As I made the joke, on Facebook that he saw in the pic, which I know from another, place, just works so perfectly with this movie here. But so essentially, my plan, or what I hope to do in March, because we're supposed to get in this movie in March, is, well, at first I was wrestling with the idea of me reviewing the Showa era of the Godzilla movies.
Ooh,
I was
that's a lot.
like,
That's a
that's
lot.
a lot,
That's a
though.
lot.
And then
Yeah.
I'll get
Most-
tempted
most-
to
most
talk about the
those
films from the 80s and 90s. And I'm like, I don't have time for that. Sorry, I
Yeah,
have a
that's
life. So, what I'm going to do is I'm just pitching the idea for you guys here. Let me just compare the Godzilla vs. Kong movies. So, we're going to talk about 1962's King Kong vs. Godzilla and 2021's Godzilla vs. Kong. We're just gonna go head to head with them. We're gonna go spoiler heavy. We're gonna talk about all the moves, all the finishes that could have been finished, and just all the good stuff. It's almost like watching some UFC fight and then just talking about it afterwards.
Yeah.
That's how I just envision this upcoming collab here. So, guys, I don't know if you, well, it all depends on who's available and whatnot. But what do you guys think about the idea?
I love it,
Yeah.
but I am very biased. I have been a Zilla fan from day one, so
Yeah, she's a Godzilla girl.
Yeah,
Oh,
I'm rooting for Godzilla. I'm
right,
rooting for him.
that's my boy or slash girl, and I love them. I absolutely love them. I'm being politically correct. I'm saying them, and I am voting for Zilla to win this.
Yeah, Godzilla is the
Godzilla is a
tallest.
non-binary
I mean,
thought.
sorry, he's the taller of the two fighters anyway. I mean, but
I don't know.
then again, Kong just has that brute
Kong
animal
It
for
looks
the
like
strength.
I
So
might be outnumbered because I'm kind of backing Kong on this.
no Kong for the win. Kong for the win.
Oh, you too.
Oh yeah.
what about you,
Nah,
Juliet?
nah,
Who are you backing?
Godzilla's way cooler. I mean, come on.
Thank you.
No.
The man
I've
is
been
Virtual
a
hug,
giant
please.
nuclear
Virtual
lizard.
hug.
Because the new film is with this new film coming out, and since we don't have time to go through all the Godzilla movies, I've been showing my partner all of the King Kong movies, and even like the one from the 70s we watched the other day for the first time is not great,
I
but
need to watch that.
Yeah.
that movie is so it kind of belongs in a similar category to like Tarzan, like Greystoke, Tarzan, Lord of the Jungle, as like
Oh,
weirdly
that's where we.
Yeah.
Oh,
kind of
Okay.
like kind of a similar vision for like let's do this like let's revamp this as like kind of a prestige like 80s 90s period piece kind of
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
Let's mod
That Grace Stoke movie messed me up because it made me think. I don't know. I saw that. I don't think I should
uh,
have seen that at the age I saw that. And
yeah. I
however,
couldn't get around just having him as a kid basically
I,
naked for like half the movie. I was like,
I felt like I
what?
could smell him. I felt like I could smell how bad he probably smelled,
Oh my god, that's hot.
and it traumatized me.
so there's no right age to watch Greystoke. There's no time you could walk away from that and like that be a good viewing experience. Like for me, I think the moment I don't know what killed me more, the moment where like his elderly human grandfather dies because he rides a tea train down the manor house stairs, or if it's the bit where
Yeah.
he's holding up the body of his like dead gorilla father in the middle of a London
Oh
square and is like,
God.
"This is
Killed
my
my
father," and
father.
I'm like,
Yeah,
what is going on? What
Yeah.
is
I don't.
what is happening?
that
Yeah,
Go
that
from
movie had
they
being
me
switch,
emotionally
right?
wrecked.
yeah,
I
to
was
go
I
from
was
Yeah.
a
bawling.
Disney-fied Tarzan to that is the kind of thing that you would have nightmares for weeks. I don't know.
I know, right?
But
But
yeah,
yeah, but back
Yeah.
to
yeah.
Godzilla and Kong, right? What really matters. So
Yes.
yes, folks. In the God Spare Life, we can look forward to just us reviewing both King
Woo!
Kong versus Godzilla and Godzilla versus Kong. Yes, there's a difference. And yeah, I'm just excited to see Godzilla versus Kong. I don't know where they're gonna go with this. I have a feeling they're gonna have a Dawn of Justice esque seek closing moment and sequel basically. I just have a feeling that's where they're gonna go with this, right? But in meantime, love the trailer. I just can't wait for this movie to come out, and I can't wait to revisit King Kong versus Godzilla as well.
Yes,
Me too.
I've been a fan of the like Legendary Pictures monster. I mean, I'm not a fan of the 2014 Godzilla, not very much, but
Eh, we'll talk about that
Kong
when the time
Skull,
comes.
but Kong Skull Island and King of the Monsters are chef's kiss, beautiful, love them.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
And then like Adam Wingard in the director's chair after the guest, like I was geeking out before we started recording. Like I'm this movie, this was one of those movies I was the saddest was when they announced it was pushed back. This was one, and without even a trailer to keep us happy in the beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
Yeah.
been a
I
long
ju-
crowd.
and then we have Tarzan in this movie too, so that's awesome.
I know, right?
Oh Lord.
Yes, but yes, folks, that's definitely something that we can look forward to. I'm really excited to talk about both films, and we're gonna have a blast with those, right? So yes, in the meantime, guys, thanks for coming through. It was fun just talking about these movies and whatnot, and yeah, I'll make an effort to just learn more about the whole Universal classic horror lineup, right, of films, and just praying that we don't get that the whole Dark Universe thing that fell apart with just
Oh,
one
that's
movie
dead.
does not become a reality. Like please,
It's
just
dead.
that.
Yeah.
Dead.
Yeah.
I follow studio news. Dark Universe is dead. Currently, what they're doing is because the Invisible Man was such a hit. Currently, what they're
Yes.
doing is they're partnering with Blumhouse to do unconnected monster movies.
Right.
Oh, okay.
Like the-
In my opinion, they shouldn't worry about partnering with Blumhouse as much as they should partner with somebody like Lee Wanell or Mike Flanagan.
Mhm.
That should be their focus more than the production house, because Blumhouse is a roll of the dice. So
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
the next one is I can't remember her name, but the director of Jennifer's Body is giving us either
or
either
Oh,
Diablo Cody, is it?
no.
I think no.
That's the Juno writer. I'm trying to remember Jennifer's Body. I can't remember, but that director is giving us a Frankenstein or Bride of Frankenstein movie. I think no, Dracula. I'm confused. No, yes, that director.
Karen Kusama.
Yes.
Yes.
She's doing a Dracula movie with Blumhouse and Universal. Right. Then Ryan Gosling has some kind of Wolfman project cooked up.
Right. Oh, Diablo Cody wrote Jennifer's Body. That's why my brain thought Diablo Cody.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I need to see it. I need to see the movie like yesterday.
Wow. Okay.
Become quite a cult classic on its own, so
yeah.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
I quite enjoyed
I've
it.
been meaning to rewatch that actually. Yeah. All right. So until the next one, this was Matthew Bailey and Julien Neaves. Thanks for coming through.
Glad to be here.
Yeah, it's okay. We going to leave now. We're going to leave now. CC, thanks for coming through.
Thank you.
All right, Summer, thanks for coming through.
it's always a pleasure.
And Alice, of course, thanks for coming through.
No problem, Matt. Anytime.
Nice. So until the next episode of Retrospect Reviews, take care. Peace.